So if I wanted to add a blog to this website, then I need to go up here to the Pages tab. And you'll notice when I have the Pages tab, this is showing me all these individual ones that were already built into the website. If I don't want to have this little tab that says services up at the top or this one that says team because those aren't useful to me, I can either just completely delete them and get rid of them altogether, or what I usually do in case I want to play around with these templates later is I'll just click this button that says hide in navigation, and then you'll notice that services tab disappeared. I might want to put some contact information in here at some point, but for now I'm just going to hide it. So basically right now I just have a website with a home page, which is not particularly exciting. And it's also not going to help me do anything with my project. So what I need to do is add a page for my blog. And I'm going to do that by clicking this plus button up here on Pages. And obviously what I want is the one that says blog page. You'll notice that when you're on the blog page, down here in the bottom right hand corner is this little blue button that says new post. If you do not see a blue button in the bottom right hand corner that says new post, you are not on a blog page and you are not making blog updates. And you'll notice, obviously, because this is a fresh new website, there are no blog posts present. So if I want to start a blog, all I have to do is hit this blue button that says new post, and then I can go ahead and start editing it. So up here at the top, I'll put my post title. For my very first week of the project, I will usually indicate something like this is week 1. So week 1, an introduction, or whatever. Now you'll notice when you're on the blog page here that there is this blank space that says drag elements here. Over here on the build tab, we have all of these individual elements that we can drag in here to help spell out and flesh out our blog post. So we already have talked about the title tab, but I'm going to go ahead and click this one that says text, drag it over here, I'm going to let go. And now you'll notice that I have a space here. It says click here to edit, and I can use this to start typing my blog. So that is how you go ahead and add text into a blog post. I want to point out the fact that as you're working on the blog post, you can separate the content not just by hitting the enter button and creating new paragraphs within a section. You can also separate individual elements by dragging in more and more text boxes. Now, why you might want to do that as opposed to creating a new paragraph is because this gives you the option of adding things in between. So let's say, for example, I want my blog post to be divided up into different sections. I can start off by having this section be my introduction to the post, and then maybe I can break it up with an image. And if I want to put an image in here from the internet or from my personal collection, I can always click over here, grab image, and then bring it right here in between these two different text boxes. And now I have the ability to bring in an image from my computer. I can search for images or pull in some kind of URL from the web. Anything like that would be fine. And then maybe I want to further divide up the blog post into sections. So I drag in this title element in order to divide up the overall flow. You'll notice right here that the title element ended up being added below the text one, which is not what I want. If I want to move anything on here, I can just click on this little box and then click and drag. And I have a new little section. And I can do this on repeat for as long as it's necessary to flesh out my blog post and just keep on adding elements. And honestly, the best way to learn is just to play around with this stuff. So over here on the left, for example, you'll notice that I have a divider, which I can use to actually physically put a line in here dividing up the content. If I look and see that there is not a lot of space between this image and this text element, and that bothers me, I can I can bring over this spacer, and it'll physically create more space. If I think that's too big, I can always make it a little bit smaller, and then I can better divide up the information on my page. You'll notice down here on the left that there are a couple of elements for HD video and audio, but they have this lightning bolt next to it, and that's because that's a premium element. So you can't directly embed video into your Weebly site. However, what you can do is embed YouTube videos. And so if during your updates you want to upload a video to show part of your progress, then you could absolutely drag in the YouTube element. And wouldn't you know it, it just so happens that I do have a video that I want to add to here, and I can just go ahead and paste in the link, click off it, and hey, there's my video explaining the Genius Hour project and what I'm doing with it. So maybe I'm going to include this here in my actual post. That could be cool. Now, everything that I'm showing you right here is all for just kind of demonstrating how you can lay out a blog post and how you can start dragging in individual elements. You'll notice that right here I've left myself a bunch of placeholders and I've divided things up and put in a spot for images. Now, why am I doing all that? Well, that's because you do not want your blog post to just be one gigantic wall of text and be a big paragraph, because if it is, that is going to be very difficult for the reader to follow. If you go on most websites, you'll notice whenever there is long form information that you need to convey, that information will often be broken up by images. Let's take, for example, this article from NPR. You'll notice up here at the top that you have the title of the article, which is Haze Spreads Across U.S. as Wildfires Continue to Tear Through the West. There's an image that is shown right up here at the top to set the tone for the actual article. And there are a few paragraphs, but then there's an image that breaks up the flow. That image is put there partially to demonstrate just how devastating the wildfires have been, but it's also there to help break up the flow of the text. It is easier to scroll through this article every time you see these images because they, break up the flow and make it easier to follow. So by that same logic, you want to add in images and videos as relevant and necessary to help add a little bit more substance to your blog post, or at least make it a little more fun, a little bit easier to read. Let's say that you've updated this blog post with all the information that you want. All you have to do is click up here on this post button and it will go to your website. In this case, I can see mine. This lets me go back here to edit. But let's say, for example, that you did not mean to put this post out there already. That's okay, because you can always click back on it and it'll go ahead and let you start editing once again. I can click this drop down arrow and hit delete, and then I can get rid of it altogether. Or if I want to go ahead and create another new post and I'm just going ahead and getting ahead of the game and starting on my next week's post, then I can go up here and click this save button and come back to it later. And then what you'll notice is down here in the bottom right hand corner next to the blue new post button is this one that says drafts. So if I click on the draft, I can go back to the blog post I was working on and resume from exactly where I was. And finally, the only other thing that I want to show you is these two pages. So the theme page is one you can go to anytime you actually want to change the layout of your website. I can change this one to other colors, or I can change the theme itself. If I didn't like the one that I picked, I can click this and then my information is not lost. And then up here in settings, you only really need to pay attention to this one if you're working with a partner, but if you're working with a partner and you want to make sure that everybody can edit the exact same website, then go down here to the Editors tab, and then you can add an editor by putting in the person's email address, keeping them as an admin, and then save them as an editor. They will get an invite and information on their email account, and then they can actually go through and start editing the website themselves. But in order to do that, I think you also need to have a Weebly account, so make sure that you set that up.